Hi guys, hold on for a second. Before we proceed to the video, I have something very important to tell you. Professor Jon V. Kofas has published his new book in collaboration with Little French Media, and the title of the book is Neoliberalism, Inequality, and Authoritarianism. This book details how neoliberalism impacts the geopolitical economy in the 21st century. You can buy it from Amazon, and the link is in the description. Thank you. Now let's proceed to the video.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brief introduction to a full video which I have done on the U.S. Foreign economic policy during the incoming Trump administration, which will be, as many scholars have characterized it, a policy rooted in unilateral trade relations to reflect the unilateral foreign policy that the Trump administration is expected to pursue, and a continuation with perhaps more nuances and even more intense and more radical, considering some of the people that the president-elect has already decided to put in key positions um, in his foreign policy team, as well as in trade, commerce, treasury, and so forth, with well-known records of being hawkish toward China, but also pursuing very much what is characterized as a unilateral trade policy. The Let me begin by stating, as the full video shows, that the the neoliberal model of neoliberalism, which is now in effect um, globally for roughly 40 years. It started as an experiment in Chile under Augusto Pinochet, the dictator that the United States CIA helped to set in office after overthrowing Salvador Allende in 1973. Then Margaret Thatcher adopted it in the late 70s, and then, of course, the United States under Reagan in the 1980s. Some of the people that Trump actually um, relies on for advice, and in fact, some of them that he will have in his second term as president have their roots in the neoliberal militarist um, presidency of Ronald Reagan. If you recall, Ronald Reagan is the one who institutionalized the neoliberal model of privatization, deregulation, a war against trade unions, and the working class warfare, which is ongoing and has become bipartisan because the Democrats, ever since Reagan, of course, have pursued some of the exact same policies with the identity politics facade to cover up that, in fact, in substance, the policies are the same. Now, in the full video, I discuss, of course, Trump's campaign pledges to go after China as a means of creating more high paying jobs. It's all about jobs growth, and making America first, make America great again slogan, of course, that he uses. All of that, of course, is public relations, campaign sloganeering. It has nothing to do with reality. There is a record, for those of you who have any doubts whatsoever, that people can examine, and the record of whether any of those policies from Trump to Biden, who continued Trump's, by the way, China policy, both in geopolitical and geoeconomic terms. Biden continued all of that, no matter what the rhetoric was. All you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is look at where the US public debt was right before Trump took over, and where it is today. It nearly doubled. Okay? So that alone, it's not the only thing as I discuss in the full video, but that alone is an indicator of the failed foreign economic policy of the United States. Now, I should point out that the world has changed immensely since the first term of Trump. Trump tried, went nowhere. Many of those policies backfired. Um, then, of course, the pandemic erupted, and that made matters worse with global inflationary pressures on top of the sanctions and tariff policy of Trump. Biden continued some of that without any effect. In fact, on achieving the ultimate goal, namely retaining the US as the core country in the global capitalist economy, the core country in the economy, which, of course, that status has already eroded. And China, according to the IMF, World Bank, and any organization, credible organization you want to look at, China is the world's leading economy, measured in GDP, gross domestic product, purchasing power parity terms, the number one economy in the world, well over 7 trillion. Ahead of the United States is China. Technologically, China has made enormous progress since Trump was elected to office in areas like semiconductors, in large measure because the U.S. Put all kinds of sanctions and tariffs, including pressure on third countries not to export to China, countries from Taiwan to Holland. But besides semiconductors, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, as well as aerospace industry, China has made enormous progress in these areas. The answer to the United States, based on the people that the Trump administration, the incoming administration, is stating, at least, is to use geopolitical pressure and weaponize the dollar, continue to weaponize, because the dollar has been weaponized, weaponize trade, punitive measures against third countries, not using the dollar for international transfers in world trade. And the fear is that China is indeed unstoppable because it's at the head of the BRICS group, whose combined GDP is far greater than the combined GDP of the US-led G7 countries. The global block trading that has emerged already, it's too late to say that it will emerge, it's a reality, combined with the wars, the policy of destabilization in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe, in other words, the wars in Ukraine and Israel, and of course the destabilization in the South China Sea and Taiwan. Those destabilization policies, combined with a regime of Trump announced tariffs and sanctions on a world scale. China is actually the pretext, but those who have been reading, been following the issue of Trump policies, and some of the people he's bringing in, Lighthizer, Rubio, and Waltz, all China hawks. Lighthizer has a history. He started out with Reagan. He has a history of fanatic um, resolve to stop China from being number one, as though it already is not, economic power in the world. And Rubio, a very well-known record as a senator in anti-China policy, and Waltz, who is going to be the incoming national security advisor, the same thing as Rubio. The question is any of this going to have any effect other than negative effect on the United States and the world economy? This is what is discussed in the video. However, there is another dimension to this, and hence the title of the video, that it's not just China, it's the world. Trump has already announced punitive measures against its own neighbors, the two immediate neighbors to the north and to the south, Mexico and Canada, against them too. Both are preparing, both are preparing, just as China has already prepared, to meet this head on, because the United States unilateral trade policy, unilateral foreign economic policy to match the unilateral geopolitical policy is expected to cause some instability on a world scale. What is to be achieved with all of this? We will see, because there is no political opposition to speak of. The Democratic Party is very weak, and in any event, the goals of the Democratic Party are the exact same ones as the Republican. If there will be opposition, interestingly enough, it will come from within the financial elites, from within Wall Street, because not all of corporate elements agree that it's in their interests, considering they have made hundreds of billions in profits in China, in Mexico, and Canada, globally. So the neoliberal model is indeed in crisis, because nationalism, economic nationalism, is rising, giving rise concurrently to authoritarianism, because Trump has made no secret of his authoritarian predisposition. And this is happening at a time when there is rising socioeconomic inequality, which the nationalism uh, camouflages, in effect, because it deflects people's attention away from rising inequality to foreign threats. And so all of these things are discussed in the full video. I invite all of you to watch, to send in questions, write comments, and I want to plead with you to please um, subscribe to this channel. This is a channel that my very good friend Asad Alim is managing. It's an educational channel intended to analyze policy based on empirical um, uh, data, empirical conditions, not a political agenda. Thank you very much for watching.